welcome back to Danny Phantom Month. Today we are talking about episode 7 entitled Bitter Reunions. This is a really big and important episode, so let's just get right into it. At the beginning of the episode, Danny fights some mysterious Jewish vulture ghosts who have been sent to kill Jack Fenton. After the theme song, Jack decides to take his whole family to this college reunion that's held at his old buddy Vlad Masters' castle that he owns. So this is the episode where we meet Vlad Masters / Vlad Plasmius, who is the main villain of the series. He's Venom plus the Green Goblin. He has all of Danny's powers just like Venom. He's also a rich guy with a personal connection to Danny just like the Green Goblin is. And here's where we learn Vlad's origin. He used to be friends with Jack and Maddie in college, and they were working on a smaller version of the Ghost Portal, but something went wrong and Vlad ended up with ectoacne, which ruined his social life and he was hospitalized and all this stuff. But it granted him ghost powers, the same ghost powers that Danny has. And then over the course of the last 20 years, he's figured out how to master his abilities and he's used them for personal gain to become rich. So Vlad blames Jack for what happened to him and his chances at being with Maddie. And so we find out that he's actually sent the last few ghosts that Danny has fought to the Fenton's house in order to try to kill Jack. But what he didn't account for was, of course, Danny. In this episode, we get to see again the Octopus Ghosts from the first episode, as well as Skulker returns, which is really fun. And we get the callback to that gorilla joke where after Skulker captures Danny in a fight, he's like, okay, now I have to go check out a book on gorillas. And this is another thing that I really like about this episode, is it really shows that actually, yes, there is continuity throughout this series. It's not just Villain of the Week. All of the stuff that happened is important, and we get to see a little bit more of that progression. So this episode basically just kind of explores the relationship between Vlad and Danny. Vlad is much more powerful than Danny, and so Danny can't really beat him in a one-on-one fight, which is cool because we get to see a variety of all these different powers that Vlad has that Danny doesn't even have yet. It's cool because it hints at further progression for where Danny is eventually going to go, as well as it gives him a main antagonist and a goal to work towards. The other cool thing about this is just the dynamics of all these different characters. Vlad wants Danny to work with him because he's like, oh, if we combined our powers, who knows what we could accomplish. It's very Green Goblin from the first Spider-Man.
There are 8 million people in this city.
As well as Vlad's just kind of jealous of the happy family life that Jack has. Vlad hates Jack but is in love with Maddie and wants to mold Danny into his apprentice. Danny of course knows that Vlad is evil but can't tell either of his parents. Jack is oblivious and still thinks that him and Vlad are great friends. And then at the end of this episode, Danny and Vlad come to an agreement to have a truce and that they won't expose each other's identity, since Danny knows that Vlad wouldn't want to reveal his identity to Maddie. So this episode is really fun. It's a great landmark episode introducing the main villain of the series. This is the first one where we really kind of see more of that continuity of the series, and that characters from previous episodes will often come back, as well as we get a really fun soap opera dynamic between all these characters, as well as a hint of where the series is going to go with them. Some other things to note: this is the first appearance of the Fenton RV, or the Fenton family assault vehicle, as Jack calls it, which just kind of becomes their main method of transportation anytime they have to drive anywhere kind of far. The castle that Vlad owns used to belong to this Dairy King, and at one point we meet his ghost and he's like, hey, not all ghosts are evil, by the way. So that's just an interesting kind of world building there. It's also another one of the only ghosts that we know for sure was a real person that lived at one point. And although Danny doesn't have all his powers yet, even within this episode we get to see him grow a little bit, as he does end up using the ghost energy shield technique by the end. So that's kind of cool. There's also a thing that I noticed in this one. At the end of the episode, there's a teddy bear that looks like Albert Einstein that Maddie is sleeping with. And then that comes back in a later episode with Jazz. So just a little Easter egg, I think. That's about it. Just kind of an important episode to introduce one of the main villains of the series, and a landmark one in the continuity. Thank you very much for watching. Tune in tomorrow for another episode, and subscribe for more Danny Phantom.